All right, guys. Another episode of the Third Watch podcast. I'm Mac. This is Josh. We're your hosts.
Yes.
And we have a very special guest today, Jonathan Sales. I just want to start off with, why don't you just tell us about you, man? Like what you and Jacob are doing with home church and how you guys just came to that.
Okay.
Before you get started too much, open us up in prayer.
Yeah, let's do it. So God, we just thank you, first of all, for who you are. And so God, we've said hi to each one of us. And so God, we're here to just say hi to you, be with us and lead this conversation. Help us to be on whatever you want us to talk about. We have no desire to lift up our own, what we're doing, but God, we want to lift up what you're doing. And if it's through us, then we want to acknowledge it and share what you're doing in us and through us. And so, God, we appreciate who you are. We appreciate what you've done in our lives, what you're doing in our families and the people around us. So, God, we're just here to give you this conversation and enjoy talking to each other, getting to know each other. And so, God, we just appreciate you and say thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now tell us a little bit about you, dude.
Yeah. So I'm Jonathan Sales. Been married for 12 years. Have a 2-year-old daughter that's about to turn 2 in a couple weeks, so it's wild. So have a fertilizer mowing company. That's what I do for my job. But I do house churches, been doing house churches for probably, I got saved in 2010 to 2011. Have different variations of them, have been meeting in our house and other houses for a while. So right now we have 3 house churches. 2 of them are about to bust at the seams, so we'll probably have a 4th and a 5th in the next, hopefully in the next month, but someone has to open up their house.
Yeah.
And, that's the only way to multiply.
Yeah.
But it's starting to get some traction. I think someone told me they had 4 or 5 new people at one house church yesterday. I don't know about the other one. And then we have another new guy coming to ours. So we've been doing that for a while.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. What would you say was like the most difficult thing about like getting started in a home church? Just so you can just like kind of encourage people through that as they, maybe step into that as well.
Probably the what ifs of like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do you do this? How do you start? When you get together, what do we do?
Right.
Right. So for me, I never necessarily was trying to start a house church. One of my buddies got saved we came out of drugs and addiction. One of my buddies got saved out of pill addiction. So we just started literally meeting together and reading the Bible. He had never read the Bible. I grew up in church, so I kind of knew what it was. And then we just started getting together and talking about the Bible. We had an older guy that started meeting with us, and we just started meeting weekly, and it just kind of grew from there. I mean, honestly, what you can do is be consistent and just get together. If you don't even know what to do, just start reading the scriptures, praying. And then the Spirit literally begins to lead you in gives you convictions on, we should study this, or we should do this, or we should talk about this. And someone opens up their life and you're like, okay, well, we need to search out the scriptures so we're not just saying stuff that seems right, or it literally just starts super organic. Or that's my experience. Other people have read books and stuff, which is fine. But I don't know, when you just let the Lord build it has a different flavor. No one can take credit of we had this awesome idea and it literally just kind of built itself,
Yeah.
And so
Hard to take credit.
Yeah.
Credit for it when it, actually comes out of the Spirit.
Yeah. When you didn't do anything, you can't really boast in much.
Yeah.
So
Was there a moment that you kind of realized that you wanted this to be bigger, or that you wanted it to be, that you felt like it was called to be bigger than just you and your buddy? Or
Well, so we had I got radically saved in 2010. My friend came out of this, and then I started going to my mom's church.
Okay.
And then there was an older meaning he was probably 10, 15 years older than us, So we just started meeting with him, and then we just started gathering. We started meeting at a community house where a apartment complex was.
Mm-hmm.
We knocked on every one of those doors. No one ever came, right? So then it taught us consistency. So And then I opened up one at my mom's house, and some of my old friends would come. My sister ended up rededicating her life. My brother-in-law did. My mom started coming. And so it just became this like gathering of like kind of misfits kind of, thing. Um,
Isn't that the original like 12 apostles?
Well,
apostles?
yeah.
I mean,
Kind of confused why that's a problem.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I ever thought to be bigger. I always had a desire. I do believe my heart has always been that I do believe there needs to be a ton of house churches. I could say hundreds, but I actually do believe that in Springfield, to where in each neighborhood, there's a place where the saints gather and the neighborhood kind of knows, if that comes from us per se, or just Christians being Christians.
Yeah.
That's my heart. Cause I think a neighborhood needs to know if you need something, there's a house, even if you've never evangelized or knocked the doors, like you have cars rolled up and you just have them on both sides of the street. People are starting to go, what is going on at your house every Sunday,
Oh, yeah.
and people, they'll just ask, why is there so many people here? The people coming in and out, there's kids,
For sure.
there's music. I mean, it just starts happening. And of course, if you're just being you out in the front yard. So your neighbor, you start talking to people and stuff. So, but everyone in that neighborhood would know if they ever come over, that's on them. But if, they at least know. I mean, I would love to see that happen all over Springfield. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Definitely cool.
So I'll say this transparently. Like when I came to your guys' home church, what I seen as like a extreme, like stark difference was the fact that you guys were so close. And I mean, I've been to life groups. I'm sure different churches call them a bunch of different things, but I've been to life groups, small groups, whatever. And it was so different because you guys are so intimate on a weekly basis. And probably even more so than that, I noticed. I mean, you guys like message each other a lot throughout the week. And I just thought that was extremely cool that there was like this tight knit community that was forming out of that. And then being able to, you guys to connect those to different households as well. And then having like a larger mission, like being able to like do some of the
larger gatherings,
that, and like you being able to like actually give money overseas and make making impacts even in like home churches. You know what I mean? Like they don't have 3,000 members and they have $1 million coming in each month that they, you know what I mean? That is a whole lot easier to be able to, you know what I mean?
Sustain that, yeah.
To see how tight knit you guys are, and then see like the faithfulness like multiply, but everybody be involved in a totally different way than I've noticed going to other churches. I thought that part was like extremely cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
With what, I mean, you kind of brought it up, or you did bring it up, like with small groups or like life groups from different churches, do you see a lot of those kind of morph into that, people wanting more of a consistent gathering, like that becomes theirs, or is it tends to be people are completely separate from one to the other?
Well, so obviously this is what the Lord is trying to do this everywhere, right? If you ask someone, man, these small groups impact me more than the larger gathering. All I'm saying is, well, then go after that.
Do more small groups.
And call that church,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's a reason why most people are drawn to that. So I do believe there's like healthy house, life groups, cell groups in a church, but
absolutely.
there's something about, we have a larger gathering. Right now we just have 3 house churches. Again, there needs to be 4 or 5, but every 6 weeks, those 3 get together for a larger gathering, which would be kind of what we would expect more of as a traditional setting. There's one man sharing and teaching, but it's more open. There's people can raise their hand and say, what do you mean by this? Or, it's way more, way more open. But we do it that way because we want people to know that the house fellowship is church, right? It is hard to get people out of the mindset. They still say, there's this cliches. We don't go to church, we are the church, right? But then that mindset is still in there.
Yeah.
Like you've just changed your language, but you still believe the same thing,
Yeah.
And so partly what we're trying to do is literally, when I think of church, I think of the gathering that I meet on Sundays with this small group of people, and then it's surrounded with these other house churches. But that's who I'm thinking of. When I'm thinking my week of like, who do I pray for? It first starts there, then it begins to expand out of that into these other house churches. So I do believe most people they can discern that this means more to me, you
Yeah.
know, but for some reason there's a little step that goes beyond that once you start devoting yourself to that little group of people, and you don't feel like you have to devote yourself to this 100, 300 people that no
Yeah.
one knows, or 1,000 that everyone knows it's impossible,
Yeah.
but they have this burden that I'm supposed to be connected. I'm supposed to be doing this. I need to volunteer at this giant thing over here.
Yeah.
But at the cost of these 10, 12 people that actually I'm called to devote myself and serve. Like it makes you almost overwhelmed. Like you have to pick one. Where do I serve? And
Yeah.
I would say serve the people
Yeah.
that are meeting in your house or that you gather with, not this other thing.
Yeah.
Because to do both, let's be honest, it's overwhelming, you know, and that's why a lot of people get burnt out on that stuff. But if I just have to serve these people, well, it's awesome because I love these people and I love hanging out with them. So
Yeah.
serving is actually not that hard
Yeah.
because we're friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So,
I mean,
so
like, we kind of talk about it too. It's just like so many people, you know, they're just checking the box with church on Sunday because it's just generally it's overwhelming. A lot of the time when you just, you know, oh, I've got, okay, now I have a life group, or now I have Wednesday service, and I have Sunday service, and I have this, and it's like, all right, there's 4 different things that I have to do in the week. That's a lot, right? And it's like, if your mindset's still the same, it's still the same. It doesn't change that,
Yeah.
and that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Which I think is something we both talked about a lot this year, how it's kind of changed, especially for me, where it's like I'm just seeking more of that. Like I want more of that, whether that be house church, big church, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, it's just seeking more of that time in fellowship with other believers and just learning and growing together. So I think it's super, super cool, the opportunity that keeps showing up for people right now.
Oh yeah. And so one of the big things I like about house church, it forces you to make disciples. You can't just talk about it. Like I said, we need 2 more houses ultimately to open.
Yeah.
This forces someone has to step up. Someone has to take a sense of ownership of like, I'll open my house, right? That doesn't mean all the pressure's on them because we'll help them, but it forces someone to grow up, you know, and take responsibility of like, okay, so that means I have to be here every Sunday. Because there's people, they're sporadic, but when you open your house, what you're saying is, I'm here no matter what. And if I miss it, there's going to be a reason, you know?
Yeah.
And so then you start taking ownership, the people start coming in, and you kind of take a fatherly and a motherly role of like, I want to take care of these people. Because if they come into your house, you're making coffee. I mean, those are just small little things,
Sure.
but like it forces it. So we have to have a conversation with the 3 house churches probably the next couple of weeks of like, someone has to open up their house, you know, and then people have to begin to pray, which then you start hearing things that you naturally wouldn't hear, like open your house. Me?
Yeah.
I have to open my house, you know? And it's like, yeah. And then the 3 house churches, we all weigh it. Say we get 4 or 5 people that say we'll open our house, then we'll all weigh it and pray it. And then we'll just say, hey, there's these 2 houses are sticking out to us. And then we make decisions together. It's not just like 2 people at the top, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's 2 elders. I'm an elder and Jake's an elder, but then we open it up, say, because we know there's insight in the rest of the church, you know?
Sure.
And so then we might have to figure out, are you ready? Do you understand the responsibility of this? Blah, 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 you know? But it's cool because it forces that.
When you
know?
mentioned like forcing disciples, anyways, with a house church or any very small gathering of people, it won't grow. It can't grow if you're not being disciples. If you're not going out and sharing and inviting and bringing, bringing people in.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah, and I mean, it's interesting.
The good point though, that like kind of what you're talking about, it forces people to mature in their faith.
It does,
and I think that's needed though. I feel like if you go to a big church, and I'm not talking bad about big churches by any means, but it's very easy to have bad habits in a big church. I mean, I had them because of a big church and myself. I mean, it's also, you know, I'm taking ownership as well, but it's very easy to show up and disappear in the back row. You know what I mean? And then come back to church the next week and not know anybody, never get involved, never push yourself to grow in any sort of spiritual maturity at all, and even serve people in a real way. I'm never ever talking down on someone that is serving, like holding a door or serving, like pouring a cup of coffee. I mean, that's amazing. But serving people intimately, like you were talking about, like having a real relationship with a group of, 10, 15 people and checking on them on a regular basis, helping out with them financially when times get tough, and like having that openness, that relationship that keeps that door open, that the church is gonna to love and like take care of its own.
Mhm.
Like you don't see that as much in a big church, just because I feel like we have this natural human tendency to be recluses, and we'll just kind of disappear
Oh, for
in the
sure.
back if we're not careful. And then then our version of faith becomes just an insurance policy in the end, rather than a real relationship that we also come into communion with like other believers and start to grow that.
Oh, yeah, if you come into a house fellowship with downcast, like, usually those are the days you're sitting in the back row, I want in and out, I just wanna praise a little bit, listen to the sermon, and get out, right?
Yeah.
If you come into fellowship like this, you're gonna be out, "Hey, so what's going on?" Right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna expose a mindset because you have forgotten the joy of our salvation is our strength, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so all of a sudden, the moment that you're downcast isn't the moment you need to hide. It's the moment someone says, "Hey, like, are you grumbling? Like, what's going on?" "Well, I'm having a bad day and grumbling." And then someone might say, "Well, I think you have forgotten the hope that's inside," and it gets addressed.
Hmm.
And then by the end of it, they leave either offended, which most of the time they're not. They're just like, I was just getting in my head. I was thinking about everything that's going on in my life, and then you literally forgot the spirit of the living God lives inside of you,
Hmm.
and that's a pretty big deal,
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, and then they can actually have fellowship with Jesus because you
Mhm.
deal with it right away. Now, when they're worshiping, they're actually worshiping from their heart, not I'm just doing it because I'm supposed to. It does. There's a lot of benefits just to there. It's more than just how we function, but it is every part supplies its need, and the church builds itself up, and then people leave encouraged and built up and edified.
Hmm.
Not like actually.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
I've gone to churches, I leave edified, but I'm also looking around and like there's no one else to like I can't talk to anyone either. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, cause I'm always bugging, I'll hit people in a regular church and like, dude, that was so good, but
Yeah,
then
yeah,
that's as
yeah.
far as I can go.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
like keep going. Like that's where house church, we keep going and it gets built and this builds and then everyone gets excited
Yeah.
and there's like this plateau and we're all there,
Mhm.
And it doesn't happen that all the time, but those are those awesome moments where you guys are going on a journey together and everyone's discovering what the Spirit of God is doing and saying, not being told what he's doing and saying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it just makes everything more exciting. And then there's lulls of I don't want to like romanticize. Sometimes it's just like sitting there, you're like, dude, what is the Lord doing? And it's quiet and awkward and can be just like, but it also exposes I have nothing to offer because I think I haven't been interacting with the Lord. So then it's humbling and convicting. And you're like,
Mhm.
dude, like I have nothing to offer because I have not been interacting with the Lord,
I feel like in that smaller intimate,
So,
how many? I have
yeah.
a vision in my head. How many people are there on a typical?
So ours right now has like 12, 15.
Okay,
The
cool.
other fellowship has like 27, 28. That's too big in my opinion.
Yeah.
The other two are like at this point where there's a lot. That's a lot of people in one living room.
How big is that house?
Not big. It's tiny.
You got 30 people in a living room. It's not my living room.
Yeah,
I'm
it's not
telling you
mine.
that. Yeah.
I've been to his with like 12 or 15, and I mean, you're close.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a small house,
Which-
but we've had people before. We're in our old house. We had people lined up. We just had a room made for this. We had chairs all the way around. We had people sitting in the floor. We had people in the hallway. We had we've had it to where it's like a ton of people.
That's cool.
Like, and it looks cool, but then you can't really do much. At that point,
Yeah.
we're like, I guess we're worshiping today because we can't talk,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's like, but it erupts into an awesome worship night.
It's
and
like
people
Thanksgiving with too many people. Like,
Yeah.
you can't talk to aunt
No.
and uncles ever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
You're just like,
Can't keep
I
up
see
with
you.
everybody.
Yeah.
And it gets there. It happens so easily, And
Especially
so-
if my kid's there. No one's getting anything
Oh, yeah,
accomplished
those
at that
kids
point.
I like that. Like,
Oh,
I
for
know
sure.
sometimes it can be like a distraction in like a home church.
Yeah.
I love seeing, and we didn't even have any kids yet.
Yeah.
The first couple times we started coming, like we didn't even have Jet yet.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
And it was super cool to see kids running around. Like
Yeah.
there was like, because you're seeing those like, I don't know, those little personalities of just like pure, like they're not worried about anything.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like, I feel like that rubs off on us too, seeing that if you see it from the right direction.
And that is a huge hindrance in house churches. What do you do with the kids? That's always a
Yeah.
Yeah.
struggle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've Mac and I have talked a lot about this. I'm a dad and I have a 4-year-old. She is an absolute spitfire. The kid does not. She is no chill. She's probably woke mom up already and going crazy at the house. But we were at church yesterday and she was singing. She requires that she goes in for worship and then she can go to childcare. And I have to like get out of my own head every single time that's like the kids are a hindrance like in church because they're loud and she's wants a piece of candy that she saw and then she's this and that, and then every single time that happens to me, somebody's like, man, I just love seeing her, and they're dancing and singing, and I'm like, all right, I need to chill out. Like the kids are like, seeing them be so free, being so childlike, it's kind of smacks me in the face sometimes. It's really annoying. I'm like, dang it, I get it, kid, you're right and I'm wrong. 4-year-old teach me a lesson every Sunday. Yeah.
It's so true. So kind of what you were talking about leads me to one of my questions that's on here. I wrote down, like, what do you feel keeps you in close relationship with God? And that could be, do you feel like it's people? Is it reading? Is it prayer? Like, what do you think? Like,
my personal.
Yeah.
So I have a conviction. So I actually think we talk to ourselves a lot more than we think, and we call it prayer. I don't think talking to yourself is prayer. I think talking to the Lord is prayer, And so I'm on a mower, 7, 8 hours a day. So either I can distract myself with like just podcasts. And again, sometimes that is good podcasts and stuff, but there's a point where all of a sudden you're getting convicted. You're like, dude, I am just like listening podcasts all day and I'm not actually interacting with God. Or you just talk to yourself, man, what do I think about this? And man, I wonder what Madison, all of a sudden you're having conversations with people in your head. Like, have we ever like,
yeah,
your wife says something or someone says something, then you get in the car and you start talking to her in your head. Next time you see her, you're kind of ticked. Like, I can't believe you said that. You would never say that, but you're just like, you're already upset,
You're like,
you know how that's going and you're wrong. Yeah.
You're like, and then I realized I was doing this a lot. And so I was on the mower and I felt like I had this conviction of, I do believe as the Lord whispered it to me or whatever. He said, talking to yourself isn't prayer, right? And I was like, what? It blew my mind. I could take you to the yard that it was on. I was like, I've been talking to myself for the last 30 minutes, So then I just began to talk to the Lord and say, God, like, I have no desire to talk to myself. Like, even if I come from a background of drugs. So even that, sometimes you can just talk to yourself about these party scenes. And instead of like, God, these images are flashing through my head and I don't even want to think about them. I have no desire to think about them. I'm not proud of these things. And it comes with feelings and you kind of go back and forth. But when I really started going after that of like, no, pray without ceasing, I actually think is somewhat possible. I have a conviction that it is possible. My mind runs, like Michael Scott says, mile an hour, So
true.
And so, but it's always running. But I realized, God, all I can do, I have this best friend that with me at all times, not in theory, but this is what we say is the game changer for Christianity is a personal relationship. So what does this mean? And so I started saying, God, you're going to have to help me because I think I talk to myself a lot, and I'm not getting wisdom that surpasses understanding a lot because I'm talking to myself. If I want wisdom that surpasses understanding, I need to talk to you, And so I'm realizing, and so I'm on a mower, literally 7, 8 hours a day. And I have to decide, do I talk to myself or talk to the Lord? And I do believe it's developed this ongoing, right? And so the best way I can describe it is my mom I used to catch her talking to herself, quite a bit because she was a busy mom and you could tell when she's in the kitchen, she's just, I got to do this today. And, she would just talk to herself, right? But every time I walked into the house or into the room, she'd get a little embarrassed, right? Because now it's odd to talk to yourself when someone else is in the room, And I remember God used that as an example for me is like the reason you guys talk to I'm getting this conviction that the reason I talk to myself, God, is because I actually don't believe you're in the room. Because if I actually believed you were in the room, that would feel so odd. Just like when my mom, immediately she stops talking to herself and starts talking to me, almost pretending like she wasn't talking to herself.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, God, you're going to have to convince me if you never leave me nor forsake me. And I don't want to just quote that. I actually want to grasp the reality of that, And then you find yourself of like, God, make me feel awkward when I'm talking. Like, remind me of your presence when I start talking to myself, because it's immediate. It's like, dude, God, I did it again. I can't believe I was talking to myself. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not that awesome. I'm not that entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
the God of the universe is more than willing to have a conversation with me, and I choose to talk to myself.
Mhm.
You know, and he starts destroying, and that is dumb. You know, like,
Yeah.
that is crazy. Like, why would I ever do this? So that keeping that is like the baseline. Because apart from that, then I'm interacting with knowledge. I'm interacting with people that aren't even in the moment with me. I'm interacting with everything, past experiences, worries about the future, all this stuff. And I actually don't think the enemy cares if, as long as if you're talking about the past or the future, just don't be in the present with the person that's sitting there. He'll win, right? And I can talk about the past with Jesus, and I can talk about the future, but it is crazy how that really, it keeps my mindset above, and I don't do it perfectly, but I have a conviction of like, I have no desire to talk to myself, you know? And then before you know it, you're having this dialogue with the Lord all day, and then you just feel pumped,
Mhm.
you know? And it's nothing you did other than I just hung out with my friend, my father, my bridegroom, whatever revelation he's teaching you in that moment. But I was hanging out with Jesus all day, you know? And then I come home not talking to my wife in my head. I came home talking to the Lord. And so then I actually have something to offer my wife. Not
You're in a better mood then, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not like I just need to be happy, spirit of like, even I do believe the only time you're supposed to talk to yourself is you tell your flesh what to do,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That's the only time you should talk. Flesh, we're not going to complain today because I have the spirit of the, and then all of a sudden you start engaging, you know, you go back and forth. But that is foundation for me. You know, I don't do it perfectly, but I have a conviction of like, God, you're with me all day, you know?
It's really cool. I think it's, no, it just hit me well because I think about like, as I'm reading, I'm like, I don't understand this. And then I try to go to my own wisdom, my
Oh,
own
for
thought
sure.
process and go, let
Yeah.
me figure this
I've
out.
done that.
Yeah.
Let me do this instead of being like, hey, help me understand
Yeah.
this,
And
guide me.
you're still having the mindset. You're still having the same conversation. You're saying, okay, God, I feel like Paul said this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, so literally
You're not asking yourself
you're not
for your own
asking
knowledge.
yourself.
Yeah.
And because now I think a lot of times we start interacting with the knowledge God gave us more than God himself, which is a subtle difference all of a sudden. But then now you're like, well, I don't know the Bible. We'll talk to the one that does. And that doesn't mean everything you hear is the Lord, right?
Mhm.
We still have to discern. You're like, God, I feel like, you know, I feel like you're telling me this. I'm not exactly sure. Just like you would a friend, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so, but that is a subtle difference. Okay, I got to figure this out. But then you
Yeah.
go inward, ask yourself.
Yep.
And then I think this is how people come to conclusions that are not the Lord, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
100%.
and I just think this is what we say is we have a personal relationship, right? This is what we are. This is what we say, you know? And it takes the pressure off of me because I can't talk to the Lord and complain for that long. Like you can't,
They contradict
like all of a sudden
in
you
a
start getting
severe way.
convicting, and because his presence reminds you have eternal life. But if you talk to yourself, you'll find justification. Well, I just had a bad day. My tire popped on my trailer, dude. The mower won't start. The starter went out. I can't, you start talking to the Lord, God, the tire popped. God, it's like really getting to me. The starter went out. And then I got life. Like that happens
Yeah.
so quick. It's not 3 hours later, 4 hours later. When you blow up on someone, you finally realize, when did I get here?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you get
You're not
convicted.
backpedaling, yeah.
You get
Yeah.
convicted after you gave this fruit to someone and they're like, yeah,
Yeah, that backpedaling is a whole lot shorter when you're having that conversation constantly.
Yeah, and he starts convicting you before it ever reaches your mouth, your members, whatever. You win a battle before it starts, meaning like, I'm not blowing up on people. I'm not struggling with the sin. I'm not, wisdom is winning the battle before it starts. And that's the dialogue with the Lord, like I tell people, if you don't cuss in your head, you won't cuss out of your mouth. If you accidentally slip and cuss out of your mouth, it's proving that you're cussing in your head, right? But if you stop cussing in your head, it'll never slip out, so that's just this dialogue with the Lord, and you find yourself not stumbling as much as you used to, not because you're doing anything. You're literally just talking to the Lord all day, and it's not a sin if you're not, but why wouldn't I? I'm saying, I think there's this measure of it starts with talking with God, then talking to God, then talking about God, than not talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
or talking about him. Like those
Mm-hmm.
are kind of and I want to talk with the Lord.
Yeah.
If that's open, if that's an opportunity, let's do it.
Well, it's like that Casting Crown song that, like, sticks in my head. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. Like, like, people never crumble in a day, and that's
Mm,
what that reminds
yeah,
me of when you're talking about that. It's so true. Like, I've literally walked down that tier list before,
yeah,
and I'm just like, it's like you have, like, an epiphany one day, or it's probably the Holy Spirit being
yeah.
like,
Yo, psst.
and I'm like, "Oh, he hasn't I haven't been talking to him." You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, and you just, like, blink one day and you're like, that's the problem."
yeah,
But I love that you said, like, the wisdom is knowing that before you ever get to the 4th step.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, for
Actually get
sure.
to where
Mm-hmm.
you're not in, like, communion with him or hearing from him on a regular basis at all, and then you're like, "Oh." And I've even come to the realization not too long ago too that I was, like, starting to, like, roll down the hill, if you will, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that's my wisdom." It might be, like, somewhat look like his, but I started to, like, alter it
Yeah.
to where
Where you wanted it to be.
I liked what it was
Oh, for
the
sure.
answer rather than that wouldn't have been his answer. His answer probably would have been, I don't remember exactly what it was about, but
Mhm.
his answer probably would have been a little bit more difficult, but more life-bringing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and maturing. You're like,
Yes.
"You
Rather
sure?"
than, like, I figured out a way to, like, twist something, or, like, I've used this term a lot too, like, you hear those Christians, like, cherry pick out of the Bible.
Mhm.
They just wanna cherry pick what they like, and then they don't wanna live by the rest of it.
Yeah,
I was starting to do that because I was taking my knowledge of what he said, but kind of tweaking it to where I was able to, like, scapegoat out the back door.
yeah,
And I, like, had I believe the Holy Spirit stepped in and intervened and was like, "That's you, that's not God."
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that he did, and I'm thankful for that because 'cause I'm just like, "Whoa, you're right. That doesn't, like, that's totally was me being able trying to escape, like, out the back door rather than, like, bring life to the world and bring the kingdom here."
yeah, yeah.
So, I like that.
I think it's huge. I mean, you're talking about talking to yourself, right? And there's that where people come up with those ideas that are either easy or just not spirit led, where, um, they call it discernment or they have it a word from the Lord for somebody else. And it's like, that's not backed up scripturally, biblically, anything there. It's like that wasn't a conversation you had with God. That was probably a conversation you had with yourself.
Exactly.
Right. And through the flesh was the enemy or whatever. Right. It makes I mean, when you think about it that way, it makes
It is.
so much sense in a different light of thinking about it. It's cool.
Because they're hearing something, right? It's just your own thoughts. It's your desire.
I talk to myself,
dude.
It speaks back sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah.
But and it's crazy, and even scenarios start building. Like I have a very vivid imagination of like my past starts hit me randomly. Like I'll be mowing on a backyard
Oh, sure.
and I can smell pot. I
Yeah.
know what season of school is out. All the high school kids are home.
Yeah.
I can smell it, and
I feel you.
and all of a sudden this like these images start, and before you know it, you're this past. But in that moment, it's not pretending like God I didn't see. It's like God, like I'm being bombarded with my past right now, and I don't want it.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy. It's not okay. What's going on inside of me? I can't. You start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Did I open up a door? Blah 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 blah. You start asking yourself all this stuff, and then it's just growing. It's growing. Now the scenario. Now my flesh is wanting to do it again. It's just. But it's one simple God. I don't want it. I don't. I'm not pretending like this image isn't. And there's this deceitful desire that's telling me I miss it. I don't think I missed this. And it's just like a good friend. Like you would have a conversation, and before you know it, now the enemy or the flesh or whatever it is thought that would crush you. Now I'm more pumped than ever because it made me have a conversation with the Lord, and we can't lose. Literally, if you always run to Jesus, because it says looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. We just find ourselves having faith for things that we didn't have before. Why? Because I'm just talking to the Lord, right?
Well, the Lord gave us free will,
Yeah.
right? And when the enemy comes in and plants that smell, right,
Mhm.
or whatever, right, that attack, you have free will of deciding where you go, right? Do you
Yeah.
go into the flesh or do you go to Him? And that causes a very different scenario, in the results.
For sure. I mean, you have in Genesis where it says sin is crouching at the door and its desires for you. That word is used 2 other times, that word desire. One of them is with Adam and Eve, and when the fall comes, and then Eve says, "Your desire will be for your husband." But it's used in Song of Solomon, where it says, "My beloved is mine, and his desire is for me." So in this moment, we're in this war. Sin's desire is for me, but God's desire is for me. And now that He's given us a brand new heart, before my heart desired sin, right? Now I got a brand new heart. My heart desires Him, right? And so you just let like, we're not wicked sinners anymore. We're saints, born again. We have the flesh that reminds us of our past, but the real me, the true me, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives inside of me desires to talk to the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like His desire for me is so powerful. Sin's desire is powerful, but we almost relate so much to that. But all of a sudden you start realizing, God, you desire me this much. And then you just let yourself talk to Him, you know, and then you just stomp the snake on the way out the door. He was crouching out the door, stomp its head on the way out.
Well, so the soul is, the soul is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Exactly.
So,
And we interpret it, the flesh is weak, of like, man, I just can't beat it. To me, the flesh is weak.
Yeah, you can.
That's why you can beat it.
Yeah.
It's weak. It doesn't say the flesh is, or the spirit is willing, the flesh is strong.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we interpret it.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, no, it says it is weak, meaning it's weak, not strong.
Yeah, go take care of it.
Yeah, just crush it on the way out.
So somebody who struggles to pray rather than talk to themselves, or any tips, tricks, or like how to like not get started, right?
Oh,
but
sure.
But how to discern the difference in what they're going through and what they're choosing to do in that walk.
So for me, because when I got that, I'm like, dude, I've been talking to myself, and I would jump in and out. I wouldn't talk to myself a lot. I have your time of prayer, and then before you know it, I'm on a yard. I think I just talked to my wife in my head, because you start feeling anxious, right? Like, why am I anxious? And I start realizing, every time I talk to myself, I get something, right? Crap, I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough grace. Man, why can't I figure this out? Like, it's that, right? I can't, it convinces me I can't do anything. I can't get out of it. I'm in the dark. I can't, that's kind of the feeling, right? So then I try to grit my teeth. Okay, God, I'm going to talk to you, and God, I'm going to mow this whole yard, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm not going to talk to myself. And then one loop around before I'm talking to myself again. I'm like, dude, God, how deep is this stronghold? Like, this is crazy. And I do it again, another loop, and I'm like, I'm on the backyard now, and I think I just talked to myself, And so I'm like, dude. So that kind of what you're asking. So how do I go from that? Now I have the knowledge to not talk to myself, but you try to go practice this, you're like, oh my.
Yeah.
Now I'm more aware that I talk to myself more than ever, you know? So now there's that weight of like, crap, I can't ever figure this out. So what I started doing is saying, okay, God, I don't know how to do this, but my desire, truly my deepest desire, the heart that you've given me is I want to talk to you. If that's possible. So then you start releasing your desire and just simply, God, I desire to talk to you. And this is what I said. I said, God, when I start talking to myself, will you grab me by my tongue, meaning my spiritual tongue? Like, just in that moment, like that conviction of like, you realize, I say, God, I don't even know when I'm talking to myself. Like, I'm so ingrained in this that I don't even know when I'm talking to myself. I need you to remind me, which the Spirit will remind us of things that Christ has spoke. So that's even His gift. It's not, I don't even have to remember myself. I say, God, you remind me. You're the great teacher. You're the great counselor. So when I'm talking to myself, will you just subtly prompt me? And if it gets too bad, stop me in my tracks.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to be a good friend, just like a good friend would be. If you're complaining, you say, hey, I just don't want to complain anymore. Will you just kind of stop me anytime I do it? You know, a good friend will say, okay. And you're going to have to get over the annoyance because they're going to expose how much you do it, you know?
Yeah.
But a good friend will do it. And so it's the same way with Jesus. Like, God, I have no desire to talk to myself. Would you grab my tongue? That's the verbiage came out of when I was praying. Grab my tongue when I'm talking to myself. And He did it, and I was like, and instead of being condemned every time He grabbed my tongue, I got, dude, you're such a good friend. Like, because even in those moments, you can either get condemned, like, I'm just an idiot, I'm a fool, why can't I ever figure this out? Or it could remind you, you are faithful, God. Like, you are discipling me. And it humbles you because you might have thought you were more mature. There's a lot of people that think they're more mature than they actually are.
Yeah.
Because prayer is like the breath life, the energy life of our life with the Lord, right? And so it's not a thing I do in 30 minutes before I go to work or, whatever. It's an ongoing thing. And some of our jobs are more demanding, so you're going to have to figure out how to like do it while you're on the computer and stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it just literally, I just started with expressing my desire with the Lord, and then He is faithful to like, because it's not even something I have to do, because the issue is I don't know when I'm talking to myself because I do it so much.
Do you ever catch yourself being defensive when you get grabbed? When you just like your spiritual tongue just gets like
At first, I'd be like, because that's why I have an answer for that. Of like, I'd start getting offended, and that I would start being condemned of like, man.
mm-hmm.
But in that, I'm like, I'm like, wait, why would I be offended? God, you are literally doing the thing I wanted you to do, and I do not want to talk to myself.
Yeah.
Like, so he just remind, but just like a good friend, hey, don't be upset.
Yeah.
This is what we both want, and then it's like, oh, thank you. Like, but he's the best hype man. He's the best counselor. He's just everything. He is. But you just let him teach you, and it's and I don't identify with the flesh anymore.
Yeah.
Because the flesh gets offended, but then the life that I now live in the flesh, I live in the faith of the Son of God. So even that is not me. Like this flesh is the one that did all the drugs, but me, Jonathan, the real me that got born again, I hate that I did that stuff. Right?
Sure.
I'm not condemned, but the brand new me. Yeah, like, so you have to remember that he is speaking to the real me. And my flesh is always, deceitful desires of the flesh are always trying to make me feel offended when God convicts me. I'm like, no, this is what I want. It's just like, get out of here. Like, flesh, and you can talk to yourself, shut up.
Yeah. You mentioned like it's a good friend, right? And like your friend calls you on lust or whatever. Yeah,
there's a long stare.
Yeah, and you're like, leave me alone, right? Like that's immediately like where someone wants to go, and it's like, I know I needed that, or whatever it may be. But it's just, I can just imagine like having that conversation with God and be like, wait a second, what was that? What was I doing there?
But in that, it's so awesome because then he becomes real. Like this thing that we say, all of a sudden you start, like I giggle a lot on the mower when I'm like, I'm like, bro, because I'll be like, I'm like, dude, it's so stinking hot, and then I'm like, ew, like, dude, God, that was disgusting. That was such a complaining attitude. I have the life inside, and it's just, and I'll start laughing, I kind of might look crazy, but it just really, but I'm just like giggling, like people are like, you hear a funny joke in your head or, but I'm just like, man, God, he becomes so real.
You put your headphones in?
Yeah.
They just think you're listening to something funny. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Exactly. They have no idea it's you talking.
But he becomes very real, and he becomes your best friend. Yeah. Like I can tell you for a fact, I've talked more to Jesus than anyone else in my life. I can say that confidently because I'm with him all the time, and sometimes I forget. And again, I don't feel bad, but I'm like, God, grow me up. Like if the God of the universe is willing to walk with me in all things, in all circumstances, and I can run everything by you, that's not a burden. That is a great privilege, to remind me, okay, it's not on me to build a business.
Yeah.
God, I just roll that over on you, like I'll do my best and I'm going to talk to you. He just becomes the best, whatever you need in that moment, But if you think he's evil and he doesn't let you do what you want to do, well, you need to understand the gospel that you have a brand new heart and you actually do want to do what God wants to do. You're just discovering what that is, you know? So anyways, it's a lot.
No, it's cool. I think that it is funny though, because I know like I'm listening to music and I'm giggling because I'm having conversation or whatever. People are probably think I'm listening to some like skit or something, some like, some comedy. I'm like, nah, I'm just listening to worship music and I'm talking,
I'm always like, God, you sitting on my lap or am I sitting on yours when we're mowing?
Yeah.
so I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm sitting on your lap. He starts becoming that guy that, but when he needs to correct me, I'm not, there's times where it's like, sober. It's not giggly. It's like, oh man, dude, I can't believe you were just short with that lady and that is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, and even if it didn't come out, the attitude that was building in me of like, whatever, because if I go by attitude, no, I smiled to her, I hugged her, whatever, but God's saying, again, winning the battle before it starts, that attitude that's starting to bubble up, deal with that now.
You're very fortunate about what you do for a career that allows that.
Oh, right? For sure. Yeah.
And at the same time, we all have an opportunity to figure out where we can do more of that, right? And walk it genuinely. I know for me, it's, I was talking to Mac about it. It's like, I get up in the morning, I go on a walk. That's my time. But if it's raining, if it's cold, or my wife's working out in the gym in the garage, so I can't go work out there, or we have this at 6 a.m. and I can't go on my walk before. I guess I could have, but I wasn't getting up at like 3 to go do it. Yeah. Right. It's like, okay, there went my time. And if I'm not diligent okay, something was on my calendar, I must go replace the number one most important thing. I must go put it somewhere else. then I didn't get any time. And you do that 2 or 3 days a week in a row, right? Well, then where are you? If you're not walking it daily, or not daily, but walking it minute by minute.
Oh, for sure.
I can see it in myself of like, man, I just get, by Thursday, Friday, I'm just kind of grumpy,
Yeah.
because I had a really busy week, awesome week, but I'm grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Why was that? Well, it's because I wasn't in conversation with my best friend.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna be like, dude, busy. Isn't this what you want? Like, he's that
Yeah.
guy.
You've prayed for this so much. I don't want it anymore because I don't want it.
Yeah.
No, it's very true.
Well, I feel like that's where your priority list really it comes into play. I feel like a lot of Christians right now in America is their issue is they have their priority list out of check. They don't realize they have their priority just at like list out of check, but they do. Because like if you'll talk to someone and you'd be like, I've actually legitimately done this in like a when we used to meet, we used to read Jake's book,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember sitting around with some family and friends and being like, get a flip phone. Oh, I couldn't do that. If it's taking time away from God, why can't you? Then he's not number one.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of your smartphone. Stop scrolling. And it's not like that. I haven't been guilty of this as well, but I had that revelation. I'm like, if you can't get rid of that, then he's not number one on your priority list. So we have to really sit down and like evaluate like how high he is on our list, and being able to hear from him on a regular basis, you'll know where he's at on your list. I think that's really cool that you were talking about. I remember, I'm just going to go back to when you were talking about when you would have like old thoughts of who you used to be in the flesh, you know, and feeling like that temptation. I love the way that Dan puts it, Dan Moeller.
Yeah.
He's always like, when I get one of those, I don't identify with it anymore because that's not who I am. He goes, but I actually thank God that I'm not that anymore.
Oh, for sure.
He goes, doesn't mean that I won't feel the conviction. Doesn't mean that I won't feel like that used to be who I am and like it feel like it tugging on my flesh.
For sure.
He goes, but I see it, I recognize, and now knowing the truth of what God's like brought me to, now I can look at those things as they try to pull on me, and I can be like, thank you, God, that's not, he said, I just start praising.
Oh, for sure.
Like, and thankfulness, like, thank you, God, that I'm not that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, God, that I don't want those things anymore. Thank you for reminding me when these things come up in my flesh. Thank you for reminding me of who I am in that. And I think that's just a really cool way to tackle it. I just wanted to throw that out. I mean,
it is.
I love it when he explains it like that.
I mean,
I heard somebody else talk about like when you're praying and you get distracted by just a thought. I'm thinking of if me mowing, I'll be sitting there, having conversation with God, and all of a sudden I see a flagpole, and then I'm thinking about flagpoles. I'm like, what the heck
I
is,
know. Squirrels, bro.
Yeah.
I see a lot of squirrels. I was like, God, those are crazy.
and then you're just like, what is going on? But there, when it's distractions of something of the world, turn and just start having, like, that becomes the conversation.
That becomes the conversation.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, just instead of a conversation with yourself or thinking about a bill, you don't need to have that thought process alone.
Yeah.
Right. And when they said that, I was like, oh, you have endless prayer then.
For sure.
Endless prayer content right then of, and I am Captain Distracto. When I used to read for school, when I was in college, I would read, this is so embarrassing to say, I would have to listen to like hardcore techno, no words, just beats, so that it would drown out thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That is like ADD to the max. I listen to Darude on literally like Sandstorm on repeat. If you don't know what that is, don't listen to it. It'll mess with your brain.
Yeah.
But I would just listen to that so I wouldn't get distracted. Well, now I'm thinking there, I'm like, just let those distractions happen.
Yeah.
And just like divert that conversation. And
which it is. I mean,
kind of a fun process.
It is. And that's where so then actually, because I have an overactive mind, right? So then what people call.
Is that the polite way of saying you have ADD? Socially acceptable way of saying.
So, but then all of a sudden your weakness, like I actually do believe the weakness, what people said is my overactive mind actually has become the open door to the revelation that I actually believe it's possible to have unending prayer. A lot of people struggle and say, that's not possible. I was like, dude, you have no idea how active my brain is. Mm-hmm. And for the first time, I found someone that will talk back, and like
at any time, at any time,
like he, like someone that's like, more than willing to have conversation about squirrels. Like literally, that's always known as the one that distraction. But I'm mowing,
Yeah.
and I see these squirrels, and again, I could pretend like, okay, I'm not supposed to be distracted, and you try to pump yourself up. I'm not supposed to be distracted. I'm supposed to talk to the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're talking to yourself about talking to the Lord, or I can say, dude, God, squirrels are crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what are they? You know, like these animals and creatures that are running around these trees, jumping from tree to tree. I mean, and then all of a sudden, I didn't get a deep revelation, but what I did do is cultivate a relationship that God doesn't disengage when I'm thinking about.
You just talk to him like you would a friend.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm
Like
dude,
if you're
squirrel,
driving down
crazy.
the highway and you squirrel across the road, you're like, well, what is this dude thinking? Right? Blah, 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 blah. Like he almost jumped in front of my mower. God, what is this squirrel doing?
Protect that guy, man. Dude, he is crazy. He needs, and it's not that I come back and say, God gave me a revelation about squirrels and over spiritualize it to the core. It's like, no, I built a relationship, and dude, me and Jesus, just, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Like you can just imagine, I'm sure Jesus not just walking with the disciples, not talking about some crazy stuff they're seeing, some animals, like whatever. It's like we think he's so stoic, and he'll discipline me and he'll father me when I need to be fathered. But until then, I'm going to enjoy you and I enjoy the discipline, but it's because it's like, thank you. But then it actually makes the discipline. I actually have built and cultivated a relationship that I know when you're disciplining me, it's out of you care for me. Why? Because you cared about the squirrels. You cared about my mower. You cared about I have to decide when I get up, I have to decide, do I go north? Because I have a route that I mow. And when it's raining, I have to decide, do I go south or do I go north? And I'm having this thought anyways, but I'm just saying, okay, got it. The rain's coming, and so I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but I need to decide if I go north or south first. And I'm not sitting in my car waiting for an answer from the Lord. But what I do is I'm just presenting it to the Lord, and then I just go on my way. But it's crazy how many times I make that's a small thing, but I make the right decision. And not because I'm trying to hear the Lord. I've just cultivated this relationship with the Lord that all of a sudden I can't quite figure out his and my thought, and you're not being spiritual, but it's like, I'm not sitting there going, okay, the storm's coming this way. You're talking to yourself. You're doing everything with them. And you just find yourself having wisdom for moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like even people come up to you and like I have an old lady that come out and she's crying. And all of a sudden you just respond because you've been interacting with Jesus. You just respond in a way like, dude, that was good. Thank God you're inside of me because
I probably would not have done that.
I would have been like, I don't know, and hugged her and said, I'm so sorry.
This mower goes how fast?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think about the, and it came to my mind when you were talking about it, like the Jesus is my homeboy, like slogan, shirts, bumper stickers, whatever. And it's like, it's a funny saying, but truthfully, you get there, right? Like it is, treat him like he's your best friend.
He no longer calls you servants, but friends, right? Because the friends know, and so it's like, obviously we all understand the father revelation. There's the bridegroom revelation. There is the bondservant, but there is this friend. Like there's all these different revelations that Jesus expressed of the Father, and I want to know them all.
Yeah.
I want to know him as my father. Sure. Yeah. I want to know him as my bridegroom. I want to know him as my master, but I want to know him as my friend too.
Well, if he was willing to come to earth and he cultivates the church, you know what I mean, and brings all these disciples together, do we really think he just sat around and was like, all right, this is what we're doing. Bye. It says he joked and he had fun with it. He has a sense of humor. I do think that's interesting. I feel like people get caught up in that a lot. They're just like, he's just this like entity that is all sovereign. And then he has no sort of like
human
personality. He has personality.
Yeah.
And that's why he wants to be like, very close with you in a relationship. Like, I think that's where it gets fun. To have a relationship with Christ. You know what I mean? Like that's where it gets fun because
if you don't, like it says, don't have crude joking. And unless you invite the Lord even into your joking, you still think things that are crude are funny, but you invite him into it. And then he's the friend that's like, someone makes a crude joke and he's not laughing.
Yeah.
And then you begin to reflect that because you're like, that's not fun. That's at the cost of someone.
Become uncomfortable about it.
Because you say these jokes and there's that one dude that's not laughing and it's kind of convicting, but also the joke's real funny, but I don't think I should be laughing, But he is that dude. So where even he doesn't think some things are funny, but then there's other things that he discovers. It's like, dude, he's not this that's who I thought Jesus was before I got saved. You are a buzzkill, bro.
That's a good way of putting it.
I did not want to be around him because you're at a party and someone mentions Jesus, the room is like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's what I was like.
Oh, I've been around many people to do that. It's just
you
like,
say it.
Oh, you bring him up, and it's just like,
yeah, everyone looks away,
right.
and they're waiting for that 15, 20 second.
I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Silence until someone can bring up a new subject.
Anyone got anything to talk about? Anything else? Yeah. Exactly.
But even that shows you that there's some power just even Jesus, because Jesus sobers a room faster than you go in a room of alcohol. Like I used to go to parties.
Yeah.
It's 3, 4 in the morning. Everyone's asking, what's the purpose of life? You know, that always happens, right? You have the crew that's still up at 3 or 4 and we're like, everyone's passed out.
It's got to that point.
Yeah. And it was like, dude, why are we the
even
purpose
here?
of life, man? Like, what are we doing? And everyone talk about Krishna or universe, but as soon as someone says Jesus, like,
yeah,
it is. And I started noticing, like, dude, there's something about Jesus. Like,
it's real. There's
truth
to it.
Sobers up this room faster than anything, you know? And that was the journey of like, are you real? But you're a buzzkill. So how I deal with this? You know?
Like, that's good.
You know,
that's funny.
He did kill my buzz, you know.
All right.
There you go. I like it.
I have I got a good question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So talking in relation to like understanding the finished work of the cross, what do you believe is the highest calling after you have the finished work established in you and you understand that?
Well, again, I think it is literally what we're talking about. In Mark, it talks about he appointed the 12. It's like Mark 3 or maybe. He appointed the 12 to be with him. Then he named them and sent them out. I guess I could probably read it. Because eternal life is to know him and to know the Father and the Son whom he sent. So this I think it's on here. Yeah. So it's Mark 3:13. He says he went up to them on the mountain and called to him those whom he desired. So that's a big desire. Like he's calling those he desires. So first, anytime you hear the gospel and you feel that drawing, it's proving God desired you, right? Because I kind of grew up thinking God was annoyed with me. He's frustrated with me. He's putting his thumb on my head of like, you idiot, why can't you ever figure this out, right? This shows, oh, God desired me. God so loved the world, he sent his son. Like all of a sudden you desire me, you know? So it says, and he went up to the mountain, called to him those whom he desired, and they came to him. And he appointed the 12, whom he also named apostles, so that they might be with him. And then it says, and he might send them out to preach, right? So the first calling is to be with him. And then once you're with him, then you're equipped to go do stuff, right?
Yeah. And
so if I realize every day I wake up, my goal is to be with him, talking with him. And then I find myself equipped when he sends me to do something, even if it's talking to this little old lady that's scared because her and her husband are struggling and he wants to go into assisted living home and he doesn't want to, right? And so I actually bring reconciliation to them. Hey, go in there and pray together. Like, don't make these decisions apart. You know, like, and I'm like, dude, God, that is good wisdom.
It's almost like you're listening to.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And
I was like,
that was
I
a
did
good
not
word,
say
God.
that word.
Was not me.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you're giving wisdom to make sure, hey, just make sure you guys do this together.
Yeah.
Make sure, like, I don't want to be the mower that comes in and the wife's coming out and I'm actually, you need to do what you want to do. Like people just say stuff like that. No, you go back to there. You guys submit to the Lord. Like spend some time to actually pray. And this is a lady I'm a regard for, right?
Yeah.
And then that was one moment, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and it was like she cried and hugged me, and it was just like, but first of all, appointed to be with him. And so when I find if he sends me or a situation presents itself, I have wisdom that I'm like, I have not thought this out ever before. Like, you know, and so I just think if we make the main point, which is to be with him, you find yourself equipped, you know, but a lot of times we think being sent out is the mission. No, it's the fruit of being with him. And that's why evangelism is a big deal, but he appointed the 12 to be with him, right? And so once you're doing that, then, because I don't want to minister the actions of Jesus apart from the heart of him.
Yeah.
And he corrects that. You can die on the cross, you can give all your stuff, but without love, it's worthless. Like that's a humbling statement, right? How many ministries are doing things for God, not in his heart? They want to be seen. They want to be recognized. It makes them feel good, which obviously it does make me feel good when a lady's crying on my shoulders and I literally didn't do anything. But it's like, it's not out of I'm doing this to get. I don't know. It's just that only the Lord can deal with those inward things that scriptures point me. I just believe this book is a conversation starter. Like it's not the relation itself. I'm like, wait, God, you read of Peter, I have all things that pertain to life and godliness. You read that scripture, that's a conversation starter with the Spirit of the living God saying, how do I have all things that pertain to life and godliness? I don't feel that. I feel like I'm empty. So is my feelings right or are your scriptures right? And this is how I talk to the Lord, because filled with the fullness of you, that's a crazy,
Yeah.
But again, you can talk to yourself and yourself's going to convince you filled. You're not filled with the fullness. I don't feel it. Now, feelings are your answer instead of truth, and feelings don't set you free. Truth does, And so, again, who you talk to is going to determine what conclusions you come to. So it literally is the finished work, the veil being ripped. Now I have full confidence. I've got a brand new heart that desires to be with the living God. I come boldly with a clean conscience. Now I can look at God face to face and have a conversation with him. That's a big deal. Instead of like seeing him from afar and kind of trying to figure out what he thinks.
Yeah.
What does God think about me? I think he probably thinks I suck. Again, those are the conclusions you come to. But God, what do you think about me? I desire you. You find scriptures like that. You're like, wait, you desire me? That's not what I came to when I was raised up in a church.
Yeah.
So,
why do you desire me?
Yeah. Why do you but then all of a sudden you might not hear something, but you go in the scriptures and say, God, why do you desire me? It's like, oh, you created me to have fellowship with you. And someone came in and hijacked this thing and made me into their image. And you're trying, and all of a sudden, then the gospel becomes exciting. And then the finished work, because the finished work is the beginning of now I come boldly and I have this guy I can talk to. And he's the one that knows truth, And so, and obviously this is the letter that he gave us. So if anything I hear that doesn't go with this, then I got to work through that. But again, I work through it with him, not just in my intellectual reasoning and our Western mind that kind of elevate understanding to the point where it's beyond him,
It gets rid of faith almost.
It does.
And relationship, it just goes into, I feel like that's what always happens when people are always trying to prove things with science. I don't know how many times, we talked about it with Maurice.
Yeah.
He was talking about, so he's a missionary over in Africa. He's over there, 10 months? Was it 10 months out of the year?
Yeah, like 9, 10
so
months.
So he's done that for I think 10 years, if not more. And he said that's what's different about over there versus here. He goes, over here in the West, we'll try to do anything we can to disprove that something was God, whether that be a healing or someone hearing something or a vision or whatever it is, a gift from God. We'll do anything to put science to it or happenstance in order to disprove it was God. He goes, over there, they have so much less of a knowledge of, especially medically for healings and stuff. He goes, they just accept it as God. They just believe it's Jesus, especially in the groups that they're working with in their Bible college and stuff. When they see healings over there, people are like, it has to be God. They don't, it's like the first thing they go to rather than trying to figure out how to medically disprove something not being God.
He was talking about that lady, his lady cutting his hair, where she's like, every day I get up and the first thing I do is hit my knees and pray. And they were having the conversation. It's like, well, the difference, not the difference, not giving her any credit, but she has no other option, really. It's not like she's going to go check her email. She's not going to go check her, Instagram, see if you got messages here. Not going to start doom scrolling, not going to do any of that because it's really not an option.
Yeah.
And he could notice the difference in somebody like her of just how much more peace there was there.
Sure.
And how much more godliness would flow through her just because that was was her mower.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he even said that she that caught him was that she wanted to know the will of God for that day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Rather than he's like, and that that stuck with me. It's like, whoa. Because everybody wants to know the will of God, the people that follow him, right? But she wanted to know, what do you have today for me? That is your will today.
Yeah, that's
God.
awesome.
Didn't ask him once and then come back a year later.
Well, ask him what's the will, get the vision, and then go do it in your own
Yeah.
strength to fulfill that vision, right?
Yep.
Or that will instead of today. That's good.
Well,
Yeah.
your way of talking about the rain, right? When you're saying what's the will? Do I need simple as north
Yeah.
and south,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, but you're not even the one processing that.
Yeah.
You're like, it just came that processed it, but I didn't think about
Yeah.
it logically or
And
whatever.
some people
Well, you're just being led by God at that point.
yeah, and there's a risk of, because some people think you're super spiritual, but it's like, man, I'll take my times in the car
Yeah.
laughing and giggling and like keeping myself from grumbling, complaining in 110-degree weather and over thinking, it's like enjoying the shade of like, dude, God, thank you for trees, bro. Like they give off shade, and God, I'm in the presence of you. And you were like, and then you start quoting scriptures, and I'll take that all day. Like
Mhm.
at some point I've wrestled with, I don't want to look too spiritual, because there are those crazy goofs
Yeah.
in the spiritual Christians, right?
Mhm.
They go too wild, right? But I want to bring, like, we can be in the center. Like I can be spiritual, but not making stuff up at the same time.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
know what you're saying.
I want to make sure that God is real, but I don't want to have to over spiritualize stuff when I don't need to. But I'm not afraid that if God wants to
Yeah.
speak to me and like give me some joy, that's like, I know it's not circumstantial, because everything circumstantially is not provoking joy in me. But then remembering my salvation, dude, I can do that at all times. That's how Paul and them, I do believe, worshiped in the cell. They didn't worship because it's the right answer to worship. No, they remembered who's in the cell with them, not just the sermon. They like literally like,
Mhm.
God, you're inside of us. You never leave. And all of a sudden that erupts. I might be in a jail cell, but I'm free. All of a sudden a revelation hits you, and I'm sure he's writing letters out of the jail cell. I think Philippians and all the, and it's like, now he's writing a revelation that he wouldn't have got unless I'm free.
Mhm.
Now he probably understands freedom way more because he was put in jail.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
entrap me, put my body in chains. You'll never put me in chains. I've been, it's crazy.
It's always, I mean, you're hitting it on the head with, being in the jail cell. It's when you hit that rock bottom state and you have like, you're spending the most amount of time like deep in conversation.
Mhm.
One, you're in jail, you have no other option. You have very little other options. I mean, you're like, I don't know what else to do here.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to talk to myself that much.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well.
Yeah,
But whatever that situation may be, and like that's where the biggest revelations for people show
Mhm.
up. Right. That's where there's life-changing moments. Or I know for me, it was just like I would start saying things out loud that I had never thought. Like I had never consciously thought. It's
Mhm.
like, the heck? Like, where did that come from? You were just saying, it's like, oh, that was a good word, God.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even, it wasn't me that said that. It was just kind of flowed out of my mouth all of a sudden, and it wouldn't have thought even.
The Spirit.
Yeah, and it's but it happens only when you're constantly seeking Him and just constantly being in the presence.
And
there.
you made a good point. Like if you can pray out loud, I always encourage people to pray out loud. There's sometimes I get it. You're cutting hair. And honestly, you're not praying when you're talking to someone that you're cutting hair, but God is present with the person,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not distracted. I'm not talking to the Lord when someone's talking to me. Like I believe God's present in conversations. I'm listening to what the person's saying. I'm not distracted, right?
Yeah.
And so, but if you can pray out loud, like if I'm in the car by myself, I pray out loud because that happens so much. All of a sudden things come out of your mouth that you're just like, I don't know. It gives it substance. It's like the way I use it of like me and Madison. It's the time like you love a girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't said it out of your mouth yet. But when you say it out of your mouth, this relationship, it's about to change.
Yeah.
And it's a little risky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you say I love you and you're like,
thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you say it out loud, and so it's not your words have power. I think people get too caught up in that. But what they do, what it does do, it like, because you can have a thought that's in your head, but once you say it, it makes you come face to face with, I think this is what I'm believing,
Mhm.
right? It kind of brings light to it, good or bad, right? If like some people say, man, I've been hating you for the last month, right? They might have been thinking that, but once they say that, it humbles them. Like because you hear it, you
Mhm.
say it, and you're just like, come face to face with, I can't believe I've been thinking
Mhm.
that way, right? But the same thing with the Lord. If I talk out loud, all of a sudden, there's something about when you share it and then He speaks through you and you're like, dude, that was so good, God. Now you can remember it. Like, but if it just stays in your head, it's like you can't grasp it. You can't remember it. It's like sand going through your hand. You cannot remember what was I thinking,
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like if you, again, you can't do that all the time, but that's why I think alone time, like you have this talks when I'm on the mower talking to the Lord, but then there's these moments where you do get away.
Yeah.
Like there's like, I'm still somewhat distracted when I'm mowing,
Yeah.
right? But there's times where you're alone. and I can talk. I'm not distracted. I can pray out loud. I can do all that stuff. So there's people like my wife, I know I've found people that struggle with praying out loud. And I'm like, no, pray out loud. There's something about that. And house church goes into all this. It helps people discover their voice. And sometimes people discover that they have a lot of good stuff going on inside of them. And some people find out like, no, that is not how God sees you, or that's not true. It's like discovering people's voice, and prayer is a big part of that, because you're discovering what God is saying, but sometimes you're discovering what you're believing, and you're like, that's disgusting. I can't believe I think that about that person or myself or whatever it is, you know?
Mhm.
And so,
I think of like apologizing, right? You're talking about saying I love you.
Yeah.
And it's real, it's there, but until you say it, until you release it,
Yeah.
the other person doesn't know either,
Exactly.
right? They don't know that there's a change or there's a difference,
Yeah.
and it's words have power, right?
Yeah.
But words make things real too.
Yeah. They make it,
They make thoughts real.
yeah. And it gives someone permission to like, it just brings it out in the open, and it's helpful. And, God knows, but our excuse, well, God knows what I'm thinking. Yeah, but do you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you?
Yeah.
When you pray, you come face to face with crap. I've been believing that. Or, dude, God, thanks. I get it. God doesn't need it. He doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Just like if you have some forgiveness, I don't need to apologize for my sake, but for their sake. Like,
Yeah.
love considers the person. It would be beneficial if you say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? Self-centeredness doesn't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Again, you're self-centered, but to him, it would change their lives, And so it's powerful. Yeah.
Super.
All right, guys, that's where we're going to stop for this week. And we are going to pick it up again next Thursday. Please join us for episode 2 of an amazing conversation that we had with Jonathan. Please make sure to share as we try to get this gospel out there and to continue to grow the ministry. Please comment, give us questions, what you guys have got going on, and stuff that we can study and maybe learn together. Really appreciate you guys. You are loved and you're prayed for. Thank you.